and few of them have passed away, and some have suffered a lot. What else when we talk about economic problem faced by all our neighbors, our communities, regardless of their faith, religion, ethnic, and so on and so forth. But Alhamdulillah, as a blessing of disguise, we have this platform, online platform where we can conduct classes so easy. We never imagined this will happen before, that friends all over the world can come together and listen to speeches, classes, lectures, so on and so forth. And it's up to us to make use of it for benefit of us, of us all, alhamdulillah. And alhamdulillah, IIIT, International Institute of Islamic Thought, have taken these opportunities by organizing online series of online classes. This is our second year. We started early last year, starting in April, and started in the beginning of COVID. We have organized classes, lectures, workshops, everything that we can do, alhamdulillah. And now we are coming to our second year. This is our fourth series of classes. We have all the recorded lectures on our YouTube channel and also on our Facebook. So alhamdulillah, tonight for this session, July and August, we are presenting again 7 classes every night, starting at this time, 9:30 night Malaysia time. I know in Nigeria now is 2:30 p.m. In South Africa is earlier, 3:30, and our friend in Bangladesh now at 7:30. And in Turkey now it's 5 hours different in Makkah. But alhamdulillah, I hope everyone can enjoy the classes at the comfort of our house or our environment. And I know also some brothers and sisters are having difficulty using their small handphone, interrupted line. Alhamdulillah, we enjoy it. So may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reward us with our sincere niyyah to learn knowledge. Our dear Professor Hazizan is our close friend. He has been with us at the Institute for a long time. He is our senior academic fellow. He wrote a book for us on Islamic perspective on sociology and anthropology. He has been teaching sociology at the International Islamic University for more than 30 plus years, and he is formally retired, although he is still teaching at the university, alhamdulillah. So last year, in June and July, he spent 7 weeks with us, giving us an introduction to sociology and anthropology, and now his continuation of the classes, alhamdulillah. So our class basically will last for 1 hour. Prof will talk for 40-45 minutes, and then we take question from the chat box. Due to technical reason, we will not entertain a live question. You can write your question on the chat box, and we will select the one is most relevant to our class. Other than that, I think that's all. If the question is not being answered tonight, we will forward the question to Prof. Maybe he will highlight it in the next class, inshallah. If possible, do not write anything on the chat box while Prof is delivering the lecture, for a simple reason that few of us are using small device. These messages sometimes disrupting the noise or the screen. Those who are using laptop, there should be no problem, but those who are using small devices having a problem with that. So without further ado, we invite our dear Professor Hazizan Noon to deliver the class for tonight. Prof.
Okay. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh to all of you. Thank you, Brother Shafran, for taking us through. And my task tonight or this evening is to try to start the series. I understand that this series will begin with my lecture or my class. So perhaps this seems to be the starter for all of us. So what we call weekly online classes for this series, this is actually the second series. I will talk more about this, and it will be taking about 7 weeks. Last year also we had 7 weeks. Let me, just now I already mentioned and also said salam, and I would like to welcome all of you. I'm glad to have you with me tonight. And I have gone through the results of the brief survey that I posted through Brother Shahran to get some ideas about the participants with whom I am communicating tonight. I will show you some of the result if the time permits, but now we can see about 195 participants are following this, and I believe this will be a good platform for us to exchange ideas on what I would regard as the challenge for us to relate religion to knowledge, particularly something that is not quite common in conventional or from conventional perspective, where religion is relegated to the place that is not quite connected to the what people call the normal life activities. So when we talk about religion and knowledge and science from certain perspective, based on certain worldview, this might be odd for them, but from the perspective of Islam, this is what it's supposed to be, where religion is actually dominating not only the thinking but also the entire life of a Muslim. I normally had in the past in my first class kind of ta'aruf or introduction. I divided into 3: introduction of the staff or the lecturer, the instructor, introduction of students, and introduction of the subject. Perhaps just to give you some ideas, and maybe you want to also share or you want to get some impression about who are with us tonight or this evening, and I will perhaps show you the result of this survey. This is not a full survey because as of I think 8:45 or something, I had about 125 or so, but now I think the number went on. So however, just for the purpose of sharing with you, let me share with you this result very quickly. So those who are with us can be represented by these figures. It was at 8:50 tonight. Yes, we have at that time 125 participants or students who gave us, most of them gave us real name, so I could get the name. So this is the distribution of the people or the participants in terms of countries. I'm sorry because we cannot see in detail each of these, but the highest one seems to be from Malaysia and Nigeria. Last year, also Nigeria was high also in terms of number of participants. The highest was Indonesia. So this year we have also many people from Nigeria and other countries. And looking at the statistic that we have here, most of you are having a master's degree followed by bachelor's degree and also PhD as well. So I am now aware that I'm dealing with those who are already having the postgraduate student postgraduate degrees or certificates. So this will be also important for me in terms of trying to gain also ideas from you in the context of our discussion. All of the participants are Muslim. I find from this short survey that majority of you did not take the classes in the first series last year. So perhaps this can give me a reason for reiterating some of the points that I already mentioned in the previous series for the purpose of connecting to what we are going to touch. Yeah? And many of you are not exposed to this knowledge of society or sociology, but somehow you have been exposed in one way or another, but you did not take basically sociology as your major. With regard to Islamic knowledge, 48% of you did not major in Islamic studies, but have some exposure to it. But quite substantial number or percentage have good knowledge of Islam or good exposure to Islam, which is very good because we can share ideas on the basis of what we know. Either what we know is in the area of sociology or Islamic study. This can together form a good combination for understanding some issues. Right. So these are some of the details of this. There are many aspects also that I asked. So it is all these are in the Excel sheet. So maybe since now, I think by now there are more than 160 participants responding to this item. So in the next lecture, maybe that will be different. Huh? So let us go back to our lecture because we have only 1 hour. So I really will have to manage my time. Now, I want to skip this because Brother Shahran has already mentioned about the background which led us to be in this situation whereby the pandemic that is what you call this taking place now, which affects people all over the world, might have created, of course, difficulties and so on, but I believe, and many people believe also, there are opportunities that we can take. And one of the advantages of having been confined to our own house is that we are able to learn more about how we can learn and teach through technology like this. So IIIT has taken this initiative, and the basic aim of this series would be to promote academic excellence through enrichment and support services for lecturers and instructors to teach subjects related to integration of knowledge. So let us be clear from the very beginning that the idea of integration of knowledge is what I call this very close to all of us, and I would assume that most of you are also engaged in educational activities and so on. So I hope whatever little knowledge that we gain from this interaction would be beneficial to us. So to facilitate that, I think IIIT has already identified a number of scholars or resource persons to assist in advancing this. So these are those who are involved, and I happen to be the first to take this challenge. Now, the topic that is given to me is Islam and sociology. I will deliberate more on this, but I would see this as a continuation of the first series, which we had in June and July 2020 last time. So those who missed this or did not attend those classes for one reason or another, for your own benefit, I will reiterate some of the points or highlight some of the points where necessary in order to connect our discussion of certain issues to what we have already touched. Yes, so this is the first class that we have. I will mention about this subject. First, perhaps it is good that we create some kind of awareness that as far as Islam is concerned, the knowledge will not be possible to be obtained, to be gained, unless it is permitted by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this was the spirit behind the response of the angels to the challenge or to God's questions or request that you tell me the names of things. Of course, these names of things were taught to Adam. So response from angels is that Subhanaka la ilma lana illa ma 'allamtana innaka antal alimul hakim. So this shows the humbleness of the knowledge seeker, and this should always be the attribute of Muslim learner. So we have to recognize that without this permission, the knowledge will not be possible. The second point regarding this has something to do with the first verse that was revealed to the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, whereby knowledge is always connected to God. I think that is the basic idea behind this verse and other verses. In Islam, knowledge is connected to God in one way or another, either in terms of seeking knowledge, in terms of using knowledge, in terms of promoting knowledge, in terms of utilizing knowledge. So there must be in one way or another some kind of connection to God. So knowledge that is not grounded in this spirit and root is not reflective of what is desired by Islam. So if you are talking about, for example, sociological knowledge or other knowledge, then this must always be kept in mind. And that defines the difference between knowledge grounded in Islamic teaching and knowledge that is away from that. So I think this will have to be always, and for that reason, we need to always ask Allah to give us the beneficial knowledge, because knowledge may be gained, but knowledge, such a knowledge may not also be, may not necessarily be beneficial if we are not what you call this, treating it in certain ways. Right. So this series is, as I said, is a continuation of the previous series. And looking at the title, obviously it is very broad. It is very, very wide and complex as well, because we are dealing not with the subject matter that is very concrete, the human being and society. This reality is elusive. Therefore, it is not very straightforward. And the title Islam and Sociology, therefore, it become very broad. And because of that, there certainly there are many approaches as to how this can be approached. This can be seen, for example, in the use of many terms describing this. For example, we have come across our names or words like Islamic sociology, sociology of Islam, Islamic perspective of sociology, Islam and sociology, society in Islam. So even by looking at all these descriptions or words, then we know this is a manifestation of how different people may look at the same thing in different ways. So realizing this, then what we are going to engage should not be expected to be a uniform way of explaining sociology from Islamic perspective. What we have to accept as a fact is that we are trying our best to see how best we can explain sociological knowledge or understanding of society from the perspective of Islam. And for that reason, it is important that we try to narrow down the scope of our study, what I call here defining the scope and focus of the study. So in order to narrow down the broad subject, perhaps we can look at the objectives, learning outcomes, and we focus on the main questions that we think should be addressed when we talk about Islam and sociology. And from there, then we can identify some of the topics which will be arranged in such a way that they become 7 lessons for us to deal with in these 7 weeks, inshallah. And then we look a little bit at teaching and learning approach. So I would say that our objective, or the objective of this, is not only to gain if we don't know or if we don't have knowledge, and then we gain knowledge. But if you already have knowledge, maybe this exercise is for refreshing or enhancing knowledge of Islam and try to understand its relation to the study of sociology. Second objective is to comprehend the Islamic framework for sociological thinking. When I browse through the ideas or the responses that you gave, I could find what you want to study, among others, would be how, for example, Islamic epistemology, Islamic worldview contribute to our understanding of sociology or society. So I take that into account in and I'm going to try to address this. And the third objective is to appreciate the functions and roles of divine revelation as the source of both source of guidance and source of knowledge of society. We know that Al-Quran is the source for Muslims. Basically, it functions as the source of guidance. Many aspects of life have been derived from the Quran and used to develop. They are used to develop sciences, what we call Islamic religious sciences, where the rulings and the ahkam are developed. But in the Quran also, it goes beyond ahkam. There are also teachings about society, and the entire Al-Quran, if we take it as guidance for social life, will provide us with fundamental not only principles for social life, but also you will get somewhat Afzal Rahman called tips and hints about social life. And then the attitude towards knowledge of society derived from other than divine revelation. Although we are talking about divine revelation as the source of knowledge, but there are also other sources of knowledge which also contribute to our understanding of society. So in what way we can see them? So what is our attitude towards the knowledge of society that we gain from other sources? For example, nowadays, the conventional discipline that become common to learn about society is modern Western sociology. So what should be the appropriate attitude of Muslim toward modern sociology? So this also will look at it. And finally, having equipped ourselves with what we call the integrated and holistic sociological perspective, how can we analyze, for example, the issues that are prevailing in our society from that perspective? So all this while, maybe we have only used the Western theories in explaining the various social issues in society. But if we try to also consider the input from revelation, so how can the same issue be analyzed in the light of revelation in addition to what has been provided by modern sociology based on their theories and so on? So these are the things that perhaps can also be part of our lesson. So I think the learning outcome will always follow the objective, so I don't have to focus on this. But what I want to mention here, there are many questions that we can ask when we talk about Islam and sociology, but here are some of the main questions that I think would be important for us to address. So, for example, what is Islam? What is sociology to start with? And what is the relationship between the two? I can see also from your response to the question, what you expect from this subject. So this is among the things that you expect me to also touch. And then since we are talking about knowledge, so what is the basis for Islamic knowledge in Islam? We are talking about, let's say, sociological knowledge or other knowledge in general, but there is a basis, there is a foundation of knowledge. So for Islam or for Islamic knowledge, what can be regarded as the basis for Islamic knowledge, and this also we are going to discuss. And then, what are the principles that regulate Islamic sociological knowledge? And then, in what way the divine revelation is regarded as the source of sociological knowledge? So, when we claim that divine revelation is the source of knowledge, what does it mean? So, we need to explain that also. And then after we have explained that, then maybe we ask this question, what then the Quran teaches regarding social realities or society? What Al-Quran says about society? So if Al-Quran is really source of sociological knowledge, that the source which explains the various aspects of social realities, then we want to see what are the verses from the Quran which provide the principles, the teachings regarding social realities. And then, since we have mentioned about the existence of other sources other than revelation, which also provide knowledge of society for us to utilize, then what could be, or what should be the appropriate attitude of Muslims towards this? And finally, when we are facing with real situation like our situation nowadays, whereby the world is affected entirely with the COVID-19, and there are many emerging issues, the issues that emerge out of this pandemic. So how can we pick few examples of the problems that exist in society nowadays and try to explain this from the perspective of integrated sociological view. So these are the things that we would like to see. So therefore, I have, on the basis of this, developed a kind of 7 lessons for us to engage. Lesson number 1, which should be the topic number 1, if you like to say it that way, Islam and sociology, meaning and relationship. Lesson number 2 or topic number 2, At-Tawheed and its implication for thought and knowledge. Number 3, Islamic framework for sociological knowledge. So these are all broad framework which we can use when we address several issues within this framework. And then lesson number 4, divine revelation as the source of guidance and knowledge. And then Al-Quran on social realities. Here we will look at the teachings of Al-Quran on society. And then knowledge of society from non-revelational sources. And finally, in terms of application, analysis of current issues from integrated sociological perspective. So one of the issues that is currently prevailing in Malaysia, at least, the issue of people being affected very much economically by the pandemic. And there are initiatives taken by the government, by the NGO, by the people, which is, for example, manifested in the form of new initiative from the people, which they call it white flag campaign. White flag campaign, that is the initiative from the people to identify those who are really in need. And then this is the issue in society. And there are many also somehow responses to this. So perhaps through the exchange of ideas, we will be able also to share some of these ideas. Yeah? Now, we have 2 major approach in our learning. One is through this live class every Monday, inshallah. And then this will be followed by enhancement effort and assessment follow-up in the form of self-reading or self-learning. So I will, where necessary, I will provide, for example, relevant link for watching videos or the link that will bring you to some reading materials and so on. So basically, the live class format will hopefully start with opening, revision, or whatever we want to mention, announcement, and so on, followed by responses to chat room. For example, today or tonight, you post some questions. So these questions will be addressed when we meet in the next class before we start our class. So by this way, we are able to maximize the use of time. And then after the class, 40 minutes, I will provide you with some reading materials. So let us look at this. From what I can see, the statistic from the brief survey, most of you or majority of us do not have some ideas about sociology, but you have more knowledge of Islam. So that explain a little bit about the background of the participants or students that I have. So very briefly, for lesson number 1 tonight, I will talk about this. But since the knowledge of Islam is not totally absent from our mind, we somehow have knowledge of Islam with varying degree of understanding or knowledge. So therefore, I will not basically focus on this. And after all, Islam is very wide. There is no end to the to learning Islam. So therefore, we will only highlight certain aspects. Now, I will focus only on, or I will highlight 3 important keywords, I would say this. Number 1, Islam as a revealed religion. Number 2, Islam as a comprehensive system of life. And number 3, Islam as a civilization. As I said, you can discuss Islam touching on many aspects, but I just want to highlight these 3 because these 3 will be related in one way or another to the topics that we are going to discuss after this. The topics for the lessons that I have listed down. Now, why is this important? Let us look at the first one, for example. When we talk about Islam as a revealed religion, we know pretty well that if we are to, let's say, categorize or see people, maybe we can firstly divide into 2. The believers and the non-believers, meaning that those who believe that there is God, or for those who believe that there are gods, maybe. So believers and non-believers, the atheists and the believers, those who have faith, those who don't have faith in the existence of God. So that is one thing. Now, within those who believe in God, so meaning that they basically have religion with them. But the religious belief that they have may not necessarily be the divine or the revealed knowledge or the revealed religion, like Islam and so on. So, in the first place, what we are talking about religion or Islam, Islam is unlike other religious system or belief which might have been either fully socially constructed or partially constructed. Islam is a divine system of life consisting of divine commandments. So this is directly revealed from God, from Allah, the creator and sustainer. So therefore, when we talk about Islam and sociology, as far as Islam is concerned, as a revealed religion, it is divinely revealed. It is not man-made. It is not socially constructed. That is number 1, point number 1. Point number 2, which is peculiar to Islam, is that the concept of at-tawheed. Islam is based on at-tawheed. Ismail Faruqi, in his book, At-Tawheed, its implication for thought and life, has stated that there is no Islam without Tawheed. So that simple statement reflects the importance of Tawheed, that is, belief in the oneness of Allah, the only creator and sustainer, not sustainer, sustainer, sorry, this is wrong. This is wrong, sustainer. So, why is this important? Because in the concept of society that we are going to talk later, there are several big questions. One of the big questions is, how did human society begin? And here you already can see the two broad what you call it theories. One is inclined to the fact that man is created. On the other hand, those who don't believe that man is created, man evolved, or human beings evolve. So things like this. So with Tawheed, it certainly emphasized the creation of man, and subsequently the spread of human beings as a society. So the implication of this doctrine, there is a Tawheed on the concept of society, is very, very telling here. And being revealed religion, Islam provides fundamental belief on such domains or such aspects as the following. So I take this from Muhammad Abdul Rauf when he mentioned about the functions and the roles of revelation. Revelation, among others, provides teachings and understanding about what you call this issues or topics or realities categorized under this. So revelation is the place where we refer in order to know about or questions about God, divinity or ilahiyat, and questions about things which are invisible, cannot be seen, but they exist. The world, the reality of angel, the reality of life after death, or ghaibiyat, I call it. And then it is the role of revelation to tell us about the worship, ibadat, and also legislation, the principles of law or legal legislation. And revelation also provides principles, teachings, norms regarding morality or akhlaqiyat. So when it comes to these issues, then there is no question about the single most important reference material or source, that is revelation. And although this is revealed religion, but it is religion meant for human being. So that is why when we talk about life, the entire life, it is the life that is grounded in the teachings of the divine revelation. So that is why Islam is important as a revealed religion. The second one, Islam as a comprehensive system of life. It is comprehensive in a number of ways. And one of the simple ways to explain this is that it is comprehensive in terms of its concept of worship. That concept of worship embraces the entire human life, the individual life or societal life. And it is here that we can see that the issue of knowledge, education, and so on is also part and parcel of what Islam addresses. So therefore, it is not an alien perspective for a Muslim to talk about the relationship between science and religion, or knowledge and Islam, and so on, because that is already part and parcel of religion, instead of looking at it from the dichotomous perspective whereby there is a separation between the two seemingly different entities. So in Islam, perhaps the two words that can be used to differentiate between the Islamic and the secular is that in the secular perspective, the word dualism is very much explanatory because things are seen in that dichotomous manner. But in Islam, the word unity, the word tawheed is very instrumental because it brings us, or it suggests, the unity in all sense. Not only unity of God, starting with the oneness of God, but from there, as we will be seeing later on, the unity of others. And Al-Faruqi has used the has identified many levels of principles of unity, which we are going to discuss later on. Now, being comprehensive, being revealed, firstly being revealed and being comprehensive, naturally Islam is, as taught by Al-Quran, is rahmatan lil alamin. But this cannot be rahmah unless it is the benefit is felt by human being, not only at the level of individual or family level, but also the entire society. So Islam is meant for creating civilization, because civilization is basically the comprehensive transformation of culture leading towards the formation of just human civilization. Yeah. So we could see, for example, how the starting point that began during the time of the Prophet, later on it developed further, even during the time of the Prophet, beginning with the Meccan period and Medinian period, and later on the teachings triggered the advancement of knowledge to the extent that civilization were created for the world. Then the world benefited from the civilization that was created by Muslims at that particular time. So when this happens, that civilization that offers and gives benefits to the people, that is where we can see the mercy of Islam being felt by the entire world. So I think by now we should be able to think along that line instead of perhaps reducing religion to things which are very petty and very which are not really reflective of a civilizational advancement triggered by religion. Yeah? So in the way we are saying is that in the context of Islam, the more people commit to religion, what it should be is that they should be more advanced, more civilized, and more developed. But then, of course, if you look at the current situation, the big question is why this does not happen. So I think many scholars have deliberated on this. We are going to also deal with this later on. But the two keywords that are also used by Sayyid Muhammad Naqib al-Atas when he deliberates the concept of Islamic worldview or the worldview of Islam, he used the word ad-dunya and al-akhirah. So ad-dunya and al-akhirah to be the important keywords in explaining Islamic worldview. After he has defined Islamic worldview, then the two keywords, ad-dunya and al-akhirah, provide very important signification for the understanding of the reality of Islamic concept of life, that life is not only for this world, or does not end with the end of our physical life in this world, but it is meant for the more permanent living in the hereafter. So if we take this, then we will treat the worldly life to be in such a way. So I think that will differentiate the concept of life for Muslim, which we are going to also deliberate later on. Now, that is as far as the reiteration of some of the points which I believe these points are already in the mind of most of the participants. I just reiterate that to bring that and connect to what we are going to discuss after this. Now let us look at what is sociology. Again, here, for those who have taken the first series, I think some of the slides have been shown, but for those who are new, perhaps even though they are new, but they have already taken or learned about sociology, this might not be new. In fact, it could be very basic. But however, to create an impression, due to the diversity of our background, I think it is good to reiterate some of the points with regard to what is sociology. Yeah. Now, we know that sociology is basically knowledge. What knowledge? Knowledge of society. Knowledge of society. Therefore, as a knowledge, we need to also be informed of what is the nature of knowledge. Here is where we are going to later on talk about what we call epistemology. Because epistemology is science of knowledge or knowledge of knowledge. Now, but as a social science, it has become an organized body of knowledge. There is an organized body of knowledge of society, meaning that if you want to learn about society, yes, we can learn from experience, from socialization, from other sources, but there should be a science, an organized body of knowledge which develop as a discipline for us to be more what you call this, will be easier for us to learn about this. Yeah? And therefore, but the science of society that is dominant today is the product of the West. And therefore, it has been called in many names. For example, modern Western sociology or contemporary sociology or Western sociology or today's sociology or secular sociology or whatever. Yeah. So despite the various names, but the body of knowledge that organized body of knowledge of society that is prevailing and dominant today is basically the product of the West. So what is wrong about being the product of the West? So here is where we are going to also look into this, because it is not a total rejection of what is Western or total acceptance of what is Western, but the critical relooking into what is there and then try to identify which of the contents of modern sociology which might be in line with the Islamic normative and epistemological framework. Yeah? So this is what we would like to say. So since what is very dominant in the study of society nowadays is modern sociology, which is the product of the West, perhaps we can also look at some impressions about modern sociology very quickly here. So by definition, you will normally find that sociology is normally defined as the scientific study of human social life or groups or society. That is by definition. This is very frequent. You find the definition is like this. Yeah? Or the sociology tries to explain how membership in social group, large and small, affects human behavior and how people in some groups behave differently than people in other groups. So sometimes sociology is explained by focusing on certain aspects in society that sociologists study. Yeah? You can have many definitions. I bring here, of course, this is taken from Google. We have to recognize and acknowledge that. So I take from there just to share with you here what is sociology. So there are many definitions of this. But if you look at this, let's say you sometime you look at this, sociology is defined as the study of society, scientific study of society, or the science of society, and so on. So the wording of the definition may vary, but the essence is the same. The essence is the same. And these are some of the topics, some of the themes which are treated and studied in sociology: gender, religion, race, and so on. And another way of looking at the subject matter of sociology is by looking at what we call some of these are social institutions, economic institution, political institution, religious institution, and other aspects as well. And to explain the various social realities, modern sociologists have come up with many theories. And also the paradigm that developed in modern sociology can be divided into two: micro sociology and macro sociology. Micro sociology studies society by focusing on the interaction at the level of individual, or what we call agency. And there is also another approach, that is macro sociology, where we look at society as a whole. And with macro sociology, the idea of this society influence individual. That is how, among others, this is explained. I think this is to what you call this specific already, but just to mention to you that there are normally three broad theoretical paradigm in sociological studies or modern sociological study. One is the functionalist approach, social conflict approach, and I call it interactionist approach, or symbolic interactionist approach. So the first two are regarded as macro theories. The third one is micro. So I will not touch on this because I think our aim is to see how the broad idea of knowledge of society can be seen within the Islamic epistemological framework. That is the idea. This become specific already on this. So of course we can talk about also the difference between this, and then in terms of methodology we talk about qualitative, quantitative, and so on. So, but at any rate, we can see knowledge of society nowadays can be also seen from two perspectives. One is the theoretical part, and then the applied part of that. So normally when we conduct real study or actual studies, we either will be guided by certain theory in order to investigate social reality. That is how we normally do. Now, so another issue that was mentioned also in your response in the survey that I conducted, you want to know what is the relationship between Islam and sociology. So we can choose what is the way we want to approach this question, but my way will be as follows. I will mention this or explain this in this way. So after exposing or after looking at what I have mentioned in terms of Islam and sociology briefly, some ideas about Islam, some ideas about sociology. Now, let us look at sociological knowledge and try to revisit some of this so that I will bring you gradually to the point where we need to talk about the alternative or additional perspective to the study of society. In addition to modern sociology, there should also be another dimension or the different perspective on how we look at society. In sociology, the subject matter is society. So it will be the same. Either you're talking about modern perspective or Islamic perspective, we are dealing with the same subject matter, an object of study. But the way we look at society may be different because of the different and other level of knowledge. So that is why here, perhaps we can talk about revisiting sociological knowledge. So just some reflection about this. Now, just now I was talking about sociological knowledge having two parts. One is theory, another is the applied part. The applied part. But if you look further, and this is not totally denied also in the study of sociology, the underlying thoughts, which I call underlying thoughts, the thoughts behind the creation of theory and also the use of theory for application. Now, let us try to look at this. If you talk about theory, I have shown you here the broad theories or paradigms, theoretical paradigms, and they are used when they apply to explain and solve problems. This is application. But behind the creation of theory, there is what can be regarded as the thought that trigger or influence the creation of theory. Now, this thought, so I want to be slow here because we are talking about things which are quite abstract. What we know, theory and practice, or theory and application, or the applied part. But we are also talking about the ideas behind this, which might have triggered the development of that particular theory. All right. So meaning that there are not two, but three here, three levels. But not three. We can also add more. So the underlying thought might have been influenced or triggered by ideology. So even though we only study, for example, theories, let's say structural functionalism or social conflict or symbolic instructionism, that basically is theory. So which is triggered by certain thoughts, and these thoughts have been based on certain ideology. So here is where we are talking about connecting or identifying the aspect of knowledge of society which needs to be relooked at. So here I will take a little bit of time here in the context. So this ideology, I will soon finish this first, and then we'll stop for now, and then we will be able to, inshallah, continue in the next class because this is quite tricky. So we have underlying thought, and this underlying thought is influenced by certain ideology, and some ideology is man-made ideology, and in the context of Islam is divine revelation. So I hope by now you can see in what way that the different levels of knowledge ultimately can be reduced also to the root of that particular theories and thought, and which here we are talking about Islamic perspective of sociology by treating this whereby the root of this in the context of Islam is divine revelation. So I will use other terms for man-made ideology. In the context of Islam, I use the word divine revelation or Islam itself. So I hope by now you can see already the justification for talking about Islam and sociology. So at what level actually we are talking about Islam and sociology as an alternative explanation and alternative perspective on society. Yeah. So the next one, the next class will be deliberating on this under the new topic that is at-tawhid. That is the topic that we aim to start our what you call this lesson, inshallah. So I think that is all for tonight. We will inshallah meet again in the next class next week. So with that, I end here. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullah. Thank you so much, Prof, for the introductory class. Alhamdulillah. We have a maximum 260 participants, and we have 230 throughout the lecture. Alhamdulillah. You have touched a very broad introduction, which is, of course, you will elaborate more in future classes. We have many questions, Prof. We will not entertain tonight. I will forward all these questions to you. Maybe next class you can select the one that's most relevant. But as a conclusion, let's take only one question from Brother Muhammad Leruan Muhammad Mukhtar. He said, how we can relate the sociology knowledge in the recent life now, such as during the pandemic COVID-19, and how the sociology knowledge able to give impact into individual and societal. This is like your concluding remark for tonight, Prof.
Not only concluding remark, but it is also one what I call it the special lesson. And if you look at this, the 7 week, we will focus only on this, because I will start by asking you in the class what I call listing down the issues in society, and then we will pick 1 or 2 issues by way of example to see how we can analyze this from this. So I think we reserve that for the week number 7, and what you call this. This is not something very straightforward. Also, actually, depending on what is the issue and social context that you are in. We are yet to talk about the concept that we have in sociology, that is sociological imagination. We have sociological imagination, sociological perspective, and sociological investigation. These are the 3 important what I call this like rukun in sociology. So I think until we have this clarified, then you can see how such issues or any identified issue can be treated. Yeah? Inshallah.
Thank you so much, Prof. We will see you again next week, same time, same date. And for all friends, brothers and sisters, our classes exactly at this time. We started at 9:30 Malaysia, and we'll finish after 1 hour, inshallah. Tomorrow we have our dear brother, Associate Professor Ibrahim from Thailand. He will talk about lesson from the Sirah. So we see everyone again tomorrow night. Till then, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi ta'ala.